We are live, and we are going live with Andrew Bentley from Vivobarefoot, and it's going to be a really interesting talk. Looking forward to uncovering why somebody goes from technology into bare feet. Hey guys, we are doing a live today with Vivobarefoot, Vivobarefoot Canada. We're going to have some pretty interesting talks. We're just going to answer a few questions. You tell us where you're from, and I want you to put where you're from, and also if you're dealing with anything specifically, neck, back, shoulders. We're going to be talking about movement and movement issues and how it affects the neck, back, and shoulders, what you can do about it. Come on my channel, love you guys. Raise vibes. Actually, I think we have a media request page up, or send an email to lisa@humangarage.net. And lisa@humangarage.net. Okay, and Sydney, welcome. Greetings from Germany. Wow. Hey, Furry Creek, we are right beside you guys usually. We left you up there to hold on the cold there, so please make sure it's warm when we come back. Hi, California. Guys, do me a favor. Can you hit the like buttons, please? And just give us a bunch of likes. Also send it out to yourself and a few friends, if you could. It just trips the algorithm. We're going to have a great talk here. Mississippi, Mississippi. Man, I couldn't spell that in school unless I could say it. Hey, looking at Pakistan. We have a big group growing in Pakistan. So what's going on with you guys out there today? We're getting ready for the live, but we'll be going on in about 2 or 3 minutes. But what's interesting is today is what we call a step 29, Grand Master Capricorn Day. So this is the day where you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it in your body. Everything that you've done or you haven't done is going to show up today. For those of you guys who've been going for the last 27 days of what we call seeking justice, trying to find and balance things in your life. Mostly it's been pretty hard for most people. So yeah, please give us a bunch of likes, and we'll be starting in a few minutes. Looking forward to this. This is going to be one. I have a client with thick endometrial lining. Do you recommend the organ? Yeah, organ reset. But if thick endometrial lining, you know what I would do actually is the organ reset. I would take the supplements that we have if you can on our site. They're meant specifically for that. But send us a DM. I'll send you some stuff specifically for that, because you got to get a lot of movement around around the lower pelvic region, so that the pressure will actually start to cause friction in the uterus, and that friction will start to release layers of fascia, because the uterus has fascia too. The way we see it is 10 layers of fascia. Not everybody sees it that way. Cloudy in Illinois. Yeah, you have any sunshine in a bottle? Yes, we're sending sunshine in a bottle to you to Illinois. Are you Anderson Cooper's doppelganger? Man, I haven't heard that for a while. I used to wear a suit and travel. I traveled for 15 years. I did a lot of U.S. travel. People would come up to me and say, are you Anderson Cooper? And I'm like 215 pounds. Anderson Cooper's like 165. I mean, I think TV does weird things to you. I don't know what this is about. You're just popped up. Oh, hi, Bertha Botharo 5. We're going to be talking about how bare feet and movement in bare feet affects your neck, back, shoulders, cognitive functions. We're going to talk about how you can actually become healthier just by taking off some shoes. Lower back pain from knee arthritic pelvic imbalances. Listen. Go just DM us. Start doing the 15-minute stress reset, the hip release, the psoas release. You're not going to have hip imbalances very long. Kidney transplantation, fibromyalgia. So 28-day reset. I'm going to tell you right now, that's like, don't even waste your time. Don't try to do anything else. Just go right to the 28-day reset. Talk about your training education. We will be doing training certification this year. Currently, doctors, practitioners, and moms and dads and everybody are going through the 28-day reset, which you can sign up to the link in the bio. It starts at the 1-day reset, 3-day, 7-day. The beauty about the resets is that it's our practitioner training from years ago, and we broke it into bite-sized pieces so anybody can learn. Trigeminal nerve pain, hydrate your fascia. Loosen it up. We got an upper release. Just DM us. We'll help you. It's super easy to get rid of trigeminal pain in our world. From Cherry in Sussex, UK. UK is rising. We have, it looks like we have classes. If you're in the UK, there's going to be classes going up there very shortly. We're looking for literally about 4 classes, I think, running simultaneously in different cities, all within about 2 hours drive. Suffering from tinnitus, DM us. We will give you some help. Suggestions to release childhood trauma stored in the body. 28-day reset. Guys, I'm gonna say that way cuter than Anderson thing. Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Annie Jackman. Dr. Annie Jackman, I love you. Chest weak, constant pain, only in the left side. Oh, listen, do our stress reset. We have it's called seated fascial maneuvers. You can do them. That will help open up the left side. It's really, if you're getting it on the left side, it's this area that needs to be opened up. The heart meridian comes in here and here. Do the stress reset first. DM us. We'll give you some movements. Hip pain mostly when I'm walking, waking up in bed. Yes. Again, just you guys. These are all really simple. Go do the stress reset. Start off with that. It's not just stress. It's full body. So let's get started. I think Andrew here should be jumping in. I'm gonna try to invite him. Let's see, can hear Vivo. Where are you, Vivobarefoot? Whoa, jeepers. A lot of people requesting to join, it looks like. So give me a second here.
Are you in the garage?
There we go. I have a client with thick endometrial, oh, we've already got to that one, endometrial tissues. Love the altar behind you, like Buddha. That's fluorite, guys. We got this, it's a big hunk of fluorite. It's crazy. Shine light in it. It's bizarre how it works. I can't wait to get a pair of those Vivo shoes. Yeah, Vivo shoes are great. If you actually go to the to our link tree, you can actually sign up. You just sign up with their, get an account from them, order from it. They'll give you 15% off. That really helps. And I've had the same Vivobarefoot shoes forever. Oh, that's okay. So we're waiting for Andrew to get on. That's interesting. Yeah. Can you talk about rib pain from coughing? If you got rib pain from coughing, do our stress reset, do our elbow release on the seated. That will work. Oh, Vivobarefoot unable to join again. That is super weird. Okay. Andrew, you know what? You're joining on your personal one, Andrew. Okay, give me a quick second here. Give me your phone. Okay, yeah, it is. It's beautiful fluorite. A watchability where you help the woman's trauma leave her body completely. I need that. You guys, listen. Those are the old ways of doing it. Those are the old ways of doing it. We no longer do that type of treatment to release trauma. It reinfects the body. To be honest with you, the best way to release trauma is to do it yourself. That's exactly how we've been doing it. The 28-day reset is the way to do it. Okay, if whatever happens, this happens again, what we're going to do is we'll grab. What we'll do is we'll Andrew, I guess we're pulling you up on your personal account again. See, Hair Shack, Mama's anything he's doing, so annoying. Huh. Wow. I'm so annoying? Then why are you watching me? My goodness. I think you should leave if I'm so annoying. I can't imagine. Channel Islands, spinal cord stroke. I have a completely different. If you go into our community portal and you read an article I wrote called Power of Water, you'll see about me talking about a crushed spinal cord. It's the first one I ever worked with. We got them actually moving their hands, quadriplegic. Now we can do a lot more, but that was the start of it. Somebody said bowel movement. I'm not sure what that exactly means. You mean you want me to take a bowel movement? I am sitting. I mean, I could technically. Yeah, it looks like Vivo's unable to join again for whatever reason. Hey, Andrew, let's bring you up live on your personal account here. Let's see, Coach Maria, you're amazing too. Thank you. Actually, I do recognize you. I see you. Yeah, I can tell some of you guys are in our app and stuff like that. So if your ear has been clogged, and I have liquid in them, having this issue for months now. Okay. So if you do our non-surgical facelift and our jaw release and the ear pull, any of those, they will actually get that. But if you want, there's a whole routine we can send you. Just DM us. Say you have earplugged, and we'll send you. It's called the upper reset. You can go through the automatic menu and you can find upper reset too. And you just do that 1 to 2 times per day. Usually within a couple of days, it's gone. 4-time cancer patient with necrosis in my left knee and hip. Listen, honestly, 28-day reset for Surfer Jeff. 28-day reset. You've got to get the pH in your body changed. You've got to get hydration and movement around there. It's your fascia that's doing it. Let's hear it. I'm going to try Andrew here. Andrew. Explore Bentley. There we go. I'm inviting you on Bentley. Let's see what happens here. How do I get rid of IBS due to? There we go. Awesome. Got you live here. I thought we were going to have a repeat of last time.
Oh, no.
So Andrew, listen, let's do this. Let's sync up because there's a lot of energy in the air here. I love to do this before a podcast. So if you do it with me, you've done this before. Let's cross your right leg over your left. Anybody in the audience, you can do this with us. It's super powerful. The more of you that sync, the better. So sitting or standing, cross your right leg over. Take your right arm, put it underneath your left armpit. Left arm on top. Turn the head to the left and the body to the right. We're going to take 6 breaths in. We're going to do it all together. So everybody with us. 3, 2, 1. Breathe in. 2. 3. Nose. 2. 3. Whoa, I could feel the stress coming out of the air there. How are you feeling, Andrew?
Feeling fantastic.
So you're in Parksville, Canada right now, but that's not where you're based.
Correct.
You're based out of Calgary, Alberta, right?
That is correct.
So for everybody looking, Andrew owns Vivobarefoot Canada. My personal situation, I've been working with Vivo and using Vivo since 2000, I think 15 or so, 16 in that case. But being barefoot has changed my life, literally. It took me a while to go barefoot because we didn't have fascial maneuvers, so I had to work my body into it. But barefoot has been the biggest change. And if you're going through this podcast and you guys you're interested in getting barefoot shoes, especially if you're in Canada, we'll have the US code up here quickly. But you go to Vivobarefoot Canada, you sign up, you get an account there. You use the code HumanGarage15 and you get a 15% discount. Super, super excited to have you here, Andrew.
Thank you. Great to be along.
So, Andrew, just a little bit, let's start off with this. What is before we get into your story and stuff like that?
Sure.
What's your favorite part about going barefoot and with barefoot shoes?
Well, the ability to feel. On the bottom of my signature line for any email that you might receive from me, it says connect, move and adventure, or move, connect, and adventure. And I think for me, the best part of being barefoot is that ability to connect with the ground, connect with my feelings, connect with my movement, connect with my purpose, connect with where I'm going. So for me, that freedom of movement and that freedom of connection and that, I'll call it extra information, the extra data that you get being in a minimalist shoe or being barefoot, which is the optimal solution. It's about the connection for me. So when you say connection, that's really, really good. So when you wear shoes today, because how long have you been wearing barefoot constantly? Probably 3.5, 4 years.
3.5, 4 years. And somebody asked, the website is Vivobarefoot Canada?
Vivobarefoot, yeah. If you go to vivobarefoot.com, it will essentially route you to the country of origin. So wherever you live, it'll automatically route you to that through the IP address. So yeah, vivobarefoot.com.
Yeah, and guys, we want you to have the shoes. I mean, we got a code coming for the US, but go buy them anyways. It's not about money, it's about you and your health. So get those right away. So, how often do you actually go back and wear normal shoes? I mean, do you have a pair of dress shoes that you still have to wear once in a while?
Yeah, I do. Unfortunately, it's probably once a week that I wear a traditional shoe. And my wife would tell you I complain through the entire process. It starts from when I put them on in my feet, and I start complaining literally from a second after that as my feet are compressed. Even the walking and the gait and again, the information that I'm receiving, there's nothing about that process I enjoy. And as soon as I get home, the first thing I do is ditch them and go, why do I do this?
So people, I have my answer, but people always ask, they always say, okay, so barefoot shoes on the upfront, I mean, they look like they're expensive. So what do you say? I mean, you know my answer. So what do you tell people?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons. Why are they expensive? You could talk about they're expensive because we're a B Corp. And so all of the sustainability that we build into the design, the production, the supply chain of the shoe, that would be one reason. Nike sells, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Nike sells 750 million pairs of shoes a year. We sell nowhere near that many pairs of shoes. So there's just an economies of scale issue related to that. The biosynthetic materials that we try to embed into the shoes, the way we think about every aspect of the shoe, again, has all of those concepts that give us the ability to be a B Corp. And so that creates additional cost. And ultimately the materials that we choose, things like wild hide leathers that are more natural, the way that we use the tanning process, the way we think about animal and animal care and how they become a part of our supply chain, all of that builds into the cost. And
look at that.
And look at that.
Recycled. So tell us about this, because this is super, super important. I'll tell you, like, I've had my barefoot shoes. I've had the same 3 pairs of shoes. I trashed one completely, but it was nothing to do with the shoe. But I had the same pair of shoes that I wore for 6 years, every single day, without fail, and they lasted me for 6 years. So now it's a recycle program, and this is super important because I used to trade my shoes out every 3 to 4 months, and that means I've got 4 pairs of shoes a year that I'm just throwing in the garbage. What does recycle mean, and what exactly does the recycle process look like, and how do we do it?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. A bunch of our products, in terms of the materials that we use, post-consumer plastics are a significant part of the shoe that we use. Some of the natural fibers that we use, we have cork resoles as an example that we use, and we have programs around Revivo, which is the ability right now, currently only in the UK, looking at expanding it to the rest of the world, but the ability to take your shoe, send it back to us, and we will refurbish it and create a secondary market for that shoe. There's approximately 20 billion pairs of shoes that hit the landfill every year. And so what we're trying to do is intercept that process to say, look, is there a way to think about improving, repair and the care of the shoes you already love and keeping them out of recycling, and also create secondary markets for them. So there's a whole bunch of initiatives that we have around trying to recycle in Canada. We're working with a national recycler to say, when we're finished with our shoes, how do we get them into that regenerative recycling program that exists in Canada? We're going to continue to do that around the world to try to make sure that the shoes, A, don't end up in landfill, and that they get repurposed for additional uses in the future.
So yeah, so when we're talking about, and this is super important with recycling, because 20 billion pairs of shoes, I mean, that number is like unbelievable. That's the world's population times 3, and I know there's a lot of people that just don't have shoes. So some of us are consuming more than our share of 3 of them. So if we have with the Vivobarefoot recycling program, I was talking to Al Galahad when he came down to Human Garage at the clinic, and he was mentioning, I just want to ask if you know anything about this, because it's like inside intel. He was talking about 3D printing shoes. You get your footprint, and you go to any 3D printer, and you can just make your shoes. Is that something that's a reality coming soon?
It's absolutely a reality that's coming soon. And again, it's thinking about the materials that we use. So, using the right materials to 3D print for longevity, but also from a sustainability perspective. So we're working with a whole bunch of, and I don't want to pre-release information, but it's absolutely a reality, and we are talking about it. There's lots of initiatives around that. and thinking about how do we use biosynthetic materials and bringing to the natural world to shoe production. So if you think about algae in the oceans, how do we use this really incredible resource that exists in the oceans and bring it to bear on cobbling so that we can actually build shoes out of some of those materials? Again, creating that regenerative, recyclable program.
Well, he had me sold for sure, because it's like, I can't tell you how many times I've gone on vacation and forgotten like sandals or something like that. It's like basically you get a package of goo, you go to a 3D printer, and you've got your foot profile. You just drop it in, you print your shoes, and you got them anywhere you go. I mean, not just the fact that it's cool, the concept of how convenient it'll be. Is that something that we're going to see in like a year or two? Or now, of course, I'm pushing this and probably shouldn't be talking about it, but
we're probably outside a year before we get to that point. Part of it is the ability to also create a super, super minimalist shoe. So something that can be created with a 3D printer and then can be almost fully recycled in its state that it's in. So they're not materials that you have to deconstruct from the shoe in order to determine how much of it's recyclable and how much of it isn't recyclable. In that model, you're really talking about the entire content of the shoe being fully recyclable with that sort of post-consumer plastic and reusing it again and keeping that regeneration cycle going.
So, with having barefoot shoes now, let's flip a little bit to the use of it. Sometimes people will say that when you start with barefoot shoes, you're going to have you have a transition. There is a period of time which it takes your body to get used to it. What do you think is average out there? Now, I know that people who do fascial maneuvers transition like 10 times, literally 10 times faster, but what is the average out there, and what are some of the things that people experience?
Yeah, so I'm probably a little remiss to want to say average, but I think going slow. And if you think about, somebody who's pretty comfortable running 5K in a traditional running shoe, where the padding of the shoe is managing a bunch of the activity, I would suggest that person should start walking 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, then 3 kilometers. And then they should move up to running 1 kilometer, running 2 kilometers, running 3 kilometers. There's definitely a period of time where you've got to break in your body. Now, you think about the hundreds of ligaments, tendons, muscles that exist in the foot. And for all intents and purposes, in our traditional shoes that are highly padded, a bunch of those muscles can atrophy. The tendons and ligaments can become brittle. And so you're asking them to do something that they haven't done before. The old adage, motion is lotion. That's true of our feet. It's true of the ligaments and the tendons that exist within our feet. And because of our sedentary lives, we're not often out exercising those parts of our bodies because the shoes are taking care of that work, that load, splay, recoil action that exists in the natural foot. A lot of that motion is essentially handicapped because the shoe is doing the work for you. All of the padding, the big heel, the heel striking, we're not getting the full range of motion throughout our foot or really through the entire kinetic chain. And so there's a process where you've got to build into it to rebuild some of those muscles. It's like you and I going to the gym, Gary, and we grab 2 50-pound dumbbells and we start curling. We might have the ability to actually get them up, but there's high probability we're going to do some damage by asking our biceps to do more than they're used to doing.
Yeah, I've been contemplating that too, because I used to curl like 85s and 115s, and today it's my whole philosophy on muscle is different. But for those of people that are looking to recoup themselves, what you said was the tendons. So what happens in a shoe is that we're supposed to roll like this, and then when we have cushion in our shoe, our actual heel only rolls like this. So these muscles up here in the calf don't get worked very well, and they start to tighten up. The fascia tightens up, the meridians tighten up. So we actually have a complete solution for that. If you go to our YouTube channel, it's a barefoot sprinter running routines, and we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And they will actually release the fascia, which automatically opens up the muscles because the muscles aren't tight. This was the problem, that the tendons aren't tight. They're dehydrated, and the fascia is tight around them. Works instantaneously. So when we get people that we take them barefoot, we just have them do that routine every day, 1 to 2 times per day. And usually the conversion process, which would take months to get somebody properly using them, is down to like weeks and sometimes days for some people. So that all that stuff is on our YouTube. And one of the things that I've noticed about wearing barefoot is you talk about information. So I get agitated, like you said, when I have to put a pair of shoes on. Now I don't do it anymore, but I went to a wedding, and so I put on some shoes and walked around the house, right? Sorry, it wasn't a wedding. It was an event. Very much, it's the opposite of a wedding. It was a funeral. Apologize. And 4 weddings and a funeral. And I had to walk around in the shoes, so I prepped it up first and tried it. What happened is the first thing I noticed was, for myself personally, is traps in my neck got tight, my jaw got tight. And when you go up, it pushes the chest up, which causes a sympathetic response. Because as I go up like this, my chest has to go up to compensate. This is like when women wear heels. What that does is it puts pressure on the breathing mechanism, and that means your body immediately starts to fire adrenaline once you raise your heel past 0. Now I've watched. In 2016 we had a Nike partnership offered from. We were working with them down in Santa Monica as a sponsorship, and we turned it down. The reason why is we liked everything, but we couldn't deal with the shoes. Because the shoes, after a day of doing treatment with the shoes, my jaw was tight, my neck was tight, and my staff the same thing. Now we've gone from, when I started buying shoes, I remember when Nike shoes came out, they're in the bins, on the end bins at the Safeway store, my local Safeway, back in the late 70s, early 80s. They were all flat. Everything was flat. And since we have gone to this camp, people going, wow, I love my shoes. They feel so nice. But every time we raise that up, what we're doing is creating more dysfunction in the body. That dysfunction for women is showing up as anxiety, tension, neck tension. Then it moves to actually adrenal fatigue, because when we're propped up like that, our adrenal glands are firing constantly. And it just takes about 7 to 10 years of that, and all of a sudden we have no energy left. Have you noticed a big difference in your own personal energy since you've gone back to barefoot shoes?
Yeah, probably a difference in a whole bunch of things. I affectionately, and I'm saying that somewhat facetiously, that I felt like the warranty fell off at age 55. Up until that point, I was pretty active, pretty much avoided most injuries. And then sort of I hit that 55-year mark. I was like, what happened? Like the warranty fell off. More injuries playing baseball, more injuries playing sport. I live in Canada, so hockey, of course, is a part of that regiment. And so there was a real difference in terms of noticing that when I went back and said, okay, what do I got to fix here? Let's start from the ground up. Let's start building that whole kinetic chain and think about it from the ground up. That started to recenter me and have me focus on the right parts instead of trying to overdo things. It's like, okay, let's build. Let's think about continuing to build on what I've started. And so for me, I don't know if I could necessarily associate an energy increase, although there was an intellectual energy increase, if I could say it that way. There was an aspiration, there was a motivation, and of course all of that contributes to a whole bunch of well-being. So for me, the last 5 years have been fantastic in that regard.
Yeah, when we'll have Cynthia at the end just talk a little bit about kids stuff, but when we put the barefoot shoes on her granddaughter, I had her go out and walk around the undulated surface and the rocks. She was pretty flat when she came in. First time ever using them. This is one I wish I had the camera for. I'm definitely going to do this the next time. And she started walking on it, and then she came back, and she was full of joy and lively. Now, adults may not notice it as quick, but when the kids, you can notice it right away. They all of a sudden start to peak up, because on the bottom of our feet, every organ, every nerve, every gland, everything in our body is represented on the bottom of our feet. And if we walk and we don't get that feedback on the bottom of our feet, that's a major mechanism in our digestion, our organ health, and stuff like this. And if you look at this, as we've been raising the height of the shoe over the last 20 years, we've gone from 0 drop, we've gone up to like 6 millimeters, 7 millimeter, 8 millimeter. I think we're even getting into like 10 and 11 millimeter for running shoes. So basically, you've got guys wearing high heels now. Literally, that's what I'm seeing. And what we are attributing that is to a lot of the neck and shoulder sprains, issues, the ankle sprains, and also calf tears. Calf and tendon tears, Achilles tears are all, in our mind, related to the cant or the release, because it's tightening that up. Then you're asked to step on that foot flat again. Well, that difference there has to be absorbed somewhere in the body, and it hasn't been very, very good. So a little bit of question.
Comments, Garry, do you mind if I comment on that? Because
sure.
I hate to be accused of a snake oil salesperson. We hear from our customers all the time, and one particular one that stands out, just sort of to build on your story, and I don't often repeat the story because I feel like, is this legitimate? Because I don't want to be illegitimate. She said that she can actually tell the difference of the children on the playground that spend more time in bare feet or in minimalist shoes than kids that spend time. And it's not only just their gait, but it's the freedom or the flexibility in which they move on the equipment. Like there's a fluidity to them that doesn't exist in children that are put in these shoe coffins, right? Whose feet are constrained, because we have 200,000 nerve endings in our feet. And all of that is giving us information. And we could talk about proprioception and how that bears on how we understand movement in space. The question I always ask people, I say, when you get home from work, do you take your shoes off or do you put another pair of shoes on? And inevitably people say, well, I take my shoes off, right? And it's a really good indicator of our relationship with our shoes, is we're kind of leaving the day, we're leaving the stress, we're leaving all of that angst that you described that we carry in our bodies. We're setting that aside and we're going barefoot around our houses. And the question is what if you could replicate that experience all the time, that when you're walking to the grocery store, or you're walking the dog, or you're out moving in nature, what if you could replicate that feeling of freedom and connection and receive all of that data input as a result of your footwear?
Somebody, it looks like, asked a question. It's DRA drop till, I can't quite get it, asked about high arches, and I'll give an explanation for that. Here's your flat foot. Here's your foot on a shoe. What happens is when your foot goes up here, your foot pulls back. So this, like, imagine this is your heel bone. So here's the way it's supposed to be, like this, heel bone. Then you go like this, you wear a shoe that's lifted. So now that heel bone is there. So the arch becomes higher because of the lifted shoe. Now as we flatten out, the arches tend to flatten out. So high arches is a result of wearing foot coffins, as we call it. So thank you for asking that question. And we have so super important now, parents who want the best health for their kid. You just said they play better on the playground, they're more alive. It is very noticeable in kids because kids don't lie. And kids don't have the social routines that we do, that if I'm not feeling good, I just make it look like I'm feeling better. And that's part of it. So that's part of the way that we live. And the challenge with that is that we don't really get a real feedback. But that example that you gave, see, I'm on the clinical side. I can tell you that it's truer than you can imagine, because we're dealing with I started off fixing bodies, backs, necks, shoulders, NBA players, stuff like this. And I noticed, as in the NBA, as the shoes went up, so did the injuries. Injuries in the NBA went up roughly 7,000% over a decade. And the reason why is issues like this. It's because as we keep increasing the level of the shoe, makes it easier to make that run and that jump. But what it's doing is it's like a crutch for the body. Now let's flip topics a little bit.
Can I build on
Barefoot
that?
Canada. Sure.
If I just build on that, Garry,
Sure,
as well?
Absolutely.
So the team will remain nameless, just in terms of their privacy. But there is a team in the NHL that has what they call return to play protocol. And part of that return to play protocol is if there is a below the hip injury, so foot, ankle, knee, hip injury, part of that return to play protocol is a pair of Vivobarefoot shoes. Now it could be any minimalist shoe, but in this case, it's a Vivobarefoot shoe. And that's part of that. Okay, let's get them back to ground zero. Let's start rebuilding that kinetic chain, and let's get the shoe out of the way so that we can start to build this athlete back up and recover so that they can get back to the game faster. And so there's so much science around that idea of let's get the shoe out of the way so that we can rebuild that athlete in the kinetic chain that allows them to perform at the high levels they do.
So somebody asked a question, should we have flat feet? And I want to clear something up. Just because the foot looks flat doesn't mean that the arch doesn't work. Just because the arch is high doesn't mean it's working either. Arches work independent of the way a foot looks. So don't get fooled with the look of a foot. I have lots of people with a lot of NBA players have because of the height of them, they actually have very flat looking feet. That doesn't mean that their arches aren't working. That's a really super important one. The old days was if it looked flat, it was flat. It says flat feet are physiological in 1/3 of people. And it's not bad. You're right. It's not bad because, again, flat looking, it's about, we got to ask a different question. Is the arch performing? And you can see if the arch is performing. One of the ways you can see if the arch is performing is if you can actually lift your foot up and you can actually do this with it. I wonder if I can do it here. I don't know if I can. So in a performing arch, we go like this. So we, second here. In a performing arch, what we want, here we go. We want this part to be able to move. So we want the toe to be able to push down and the toe to rise. That's a performing arch. And it lets it up and down. So it's actually the movement of the big toe. And again, if you go to our barefoot running series and you do the movements in there, your arch will perform differently the very first time you do it. I do not believe in wearing orthotics at all. If you're asking me and you're wearing orthotics, you come in my clinic. When I was in a clinic, the first thing I do is throw them out. Orthotics are the death, literally the death of the human anatomy. Do not wear orthotics ever. And there's a lot of people that are going to hate me for saying that. I've been doing this at the Olympic level and at the professional level for a long time. I see the end result of all the years of orthotic use. And typically what they do is they put one orthotic in one shoe to balance off your hips because you've got a short leg. I have only met 4 people in my clinical career that have a biologically anatomically short leg. It's always the hip is out. Let's just fix the hip. So let's ask another question. So is Vivobarefoot the same as Canada? The same as Vivobarefoot.com? Are you guys the same company? Or are you the big engine that everybody knows around the world?
We are the same company. So Vivobarefoot.com is, essentially the URL to get you to the site. And then from there, there's a /CA for Canada. You can be in the US, you could be in the UK, you could be in Australia. So it geo routes according to your IP address. But yes, we are Vivobarefoot Canada, which is part of the Vivobarefoot brand.
But this is your company.
Vivobarefoot Canada.
Right.
Yes, we are the distributor for it.
So you're not, this isn't, you are a local brand. You're locally run. You're not a Nike. You don't have a bunch of shops. You are out there. You and your team are out there going to workshops, going to chiropractors, going to PTs, working with people out there every day. This is a local brand. This is super important, people. I want you to hear this because buying local is super important. When you buy Vivobarefoot Canada, you're supporting Canadians. You're not supporting Nike, big corporate machine. You're not supporting Adidas, big corporate machine. You're supporting people that are on the street actually doing this. So a little bit about your background. I mean, you weren't an athlete. You're an athlete your whole life, but you weren't. That wasn't what you did for a living. So no. How did you? What's your background? How did you get into this?
Sure, and just for the sake of some of the people typing notes, there is a knocking in the background. I don't know if it's possible to mute, but there is a recurring knocking that people are commenting on in the comments.
My goodness, let's see what's going on there. That's a funny one. We'll thank you. Somebody just ran out. It's like, who's knocking on the door? Okay, we'll get that over there.
Yeah, you can still hear it. It's happening right now. So I don't know if you can mute all participants.
Yeah. Actually, that's unfortunately coming from me. So we're in the process of getting that sorted out here.
Fantastic.
Right now. Yeah.
So background.
Just give it a second here. We'll get rid of that. Okay. Yeah, somebody decided to knock on the building here. They're doing construction. We're in our retreat center in Cancun, and we're getting it ready. Our whole team, our last part of our team arrives tomorrow night, and some of the rooms weren't ready and stuff like that. So everything is like rush right now. So that looks like knocking is good.
All right. question was my background.
Yeah. Like, how did you get here? What did you do? Like, who are you?
Yeah, who am I? So I've spent the majority of my career in information technology. So working for some of the largest IT companies in the world. Opened one of the Microsoft offices in Western Canada. AWS, which is part of the Amazon franchise. It's the technology side of Amazon. IBM, HP. So spent the majority, probably 30 plus years of my career in information technology. And so, of course, the question is, how did I make the transition to what I'm doing today? It was really as a result of my son-in-law. He just recently sold a prosthetics and orthotics clinic. So he had a lot of interactions with people related to their feet, diabetes primarily in terms of needing shoes that have some seamless toe boxes, as well as dealing with amputees. And when you're having to fit them with a amputation or a prosthetic, on one leg, how you make the accommodation for the other leg and the footwear is really, really important. Anyways, he's the one that initially came in contact with the brand, and he showed me the shoes. He said, these are fantastic, based on my age. He said, you really should try these shoes. I said, love to try them. Buy me a pair and I'll try them. And so being the generous son-in-law he was, he bought me a pair of the Vivobarefoots, and I put them on and immediately felt that, like, okay, this is exactly like being barefoot. This is that feeling I always come home to at the end of the day when I take off my shoes, and being able to replicate that. And I start to wear them to work. You put them with a pair of jeans and a nice suit jacket or whatever, and start to wear them, and fell in love with them, and fell in love with the movement and the way that they made me feel. And so as a result of that, we reached out to Vivobarefoot directly in the UK, Galahad, whose name you mentioned earlier, and said, Galahad, we'd love to distribute this product in Canada and be the brand representative for Canada. And what that meant was not simply, having a distribution model, meaning, we get a bunch of product and we essentially break bulk and redistribute the product, but we wanted to be more than just the distributor in the transactional sense of the word, but we wanted to build a community. And when we talk about the values of our company at Vivobarefoot Canada, the first value is we're in business to improve people's health. And so we take that very, very personally. Last, Tuesday, so 2 or 3 days ago, I was in Vancouver at the UBC, University of British Columbia, talking to the last year physio students to talk about foot mechanics. And, Leonardo da Vinci said it's a biomechanical wonder. And, these kids, students probably better said, these students are at the end of their education, so to speak, from a, university perspective. Hopefully they continue to be lifelong learners. But when you ask them, what percentage of all your training in the last 3 years has focused on the foot? And on average, you hear answers like, less than 10%, probably 5%. And there's not a lot of attention given to that. Anyways, all that to say, from a Vivobarefoot Canada perspective, is we're really about getting into the community. We're really about activating movement in our community. So working with physios, working with chiros, working with athletes, working with anybody that wants to move, connect, and adventure, and bringing the product to market so that they have access to products that allow them to do that.
Yes, absolutely. So you're in the technology, and funny enough, I was in technology all the way until I got into the clinic. I got into the clinic out of a need. It's because my body was in pain, and I didn't realize, honestly, I had done everything. I'd been to every practitioner you can imagine. I spent a couple $1 million of my own money over 20 years trying to resolve my issue, and it was the little things that were making the big difference. Like, one of them was, as a kid, I never learned to crawl. I scooted because we had like hardwood floors, and then I got up and I ran. So if you don't crawl, you don't have proper contralateral motion. So my entire life, every step I was taking was slightly causing me a problem in my body. And then furthermore is wearing elevated shoes. Like, I was the guy that wore my shoes in the house constantly. I would go home, or we had like slate floors or wood floors. So I was part of the community that wore shoes in the house. I would only take them off basically when I was done at the end of the day going to bed. And so these are the things that contributed to my long-term chronic issues. And my feet were like this. And as I started to move, my feet started to splay properly. And as that happened, all of a sudden tension came out of my neck and out of my shoulders, because I was constantly adjusting, and I was always moving my neck around, going to a chiropractor, going to a physical therapist, but I had no idea that it was actually my feet. And these are the little things, because even today, most practitioners and even most physiotherapists do not understand this. What is one thing that you want to tell to physiotherapists, chiropractors, mechanical doctors? What do you want them to know about barefoot?
I'll go back to Da Vinci, right? He said it's a biomechanical miracle that more bones exist in our foot than anywhere else in the body, that there's so much going on there. And it's so much a part of our connection to everything, is that when I think the message I gave them on Tuesday night was, because we're a hammer, not everything's a nail. We don't want to be that organization. We don't want to be those people. But this is a tool that you have to have in your toolbox. And you have to think about the body holistically. And, you blow out a shoulder, you do something, and immediately we go straight to that area and we say, okay, well, let's get that area fixed. But we're connected. We're connected all the way down to the ground. And that they have to think more holistically about the body. We have to think more holistically about the way we move. We have to think of more holistically about all of the emotional connection that we have within our bodies. If time permits me, we'll get into a little bit of philosophy in terms of how I think about that in terms of life. And
let's do it. Let's do it right now.
Okay.
Yeah. First of all, do your kids and wife wear barefoot shoes?
Exclusively.
Okay.
That's probably not true. That's a lie.
Well, I mean, listen, in
today's
today's world, with
it's about
women,
about a 1%.
Yeah. There's a time. I mean, when Cynthia was transitioning to barefoot, it's been there's always that time where you still have the habits and you wear a certain dress, whatever. But this, by the way, this is why I like Vivobarefoot, because all the other barefoot shoes, they look like barefoot shoes. Vivobarefoot shoes, man, they look cool. That's part of it. They just look cool. They feel cool. And so let's get into the philosophical side.
Yeah, I think for me, Gary, and I hope it's not an oversimplification, but I think, there are three things that we're incredibly hardwired for. So physiologically, emotionally, like every part of our being is hardwired for three things. And they are purpose, their connection, and their development. And you see that in the way our pleasure reward systems work within our brain and the dopamine systems. You see it in the happiness hormones, right? Whether that's oxytocin, dopamine, these hormones that contribute to a bunch of these things. And so we are hardwired for purpose. And if we don't have purpose in our life, if we don't have things that outlive us, things that inspire us, things that we're aspiring to, if we're not focused on developing ourselves and becoming better humans, and if we're not focused on connection, we then sort of switch over to the antithetical side of those things. And so in the absence of purpose, what you find is people become power mongers, that they seek power. They don't talk about their purpose. They talk about how big of budgets they have. They talk about how many people are in their downline, how many people report to them. They talk about all those things that relate to individual power. In the absence of development, people go towards distraction. And so they become high consumers of distractive entertainment. Instead of worrying about developing themselves and becoming better across all of their axes, they consume high degrees of entertainment. They consume high amounts of distraction in their life. And then the third one is in the absence of connection, we become consumers and we become hyper consumers. We know what version of everything we own. We know what the next version of the next thing is that we want to own. We have bucket lists of things that we want to do that we're going to consume. And in the worst case scenario, we become consumers of people. And so for me, this is all about alignment, is that when you align with who you are hardwired to be in terms of your connection, in terms of your purpose, in terms of your development, then you stay congruent, you stay in alignment, and your life blossoms from that. In the absence of those things, we tend to gravitate towards the antithetical, which is we gravitate towards power, we gravitate towards distraction, and we gravitate towards consumption. And so for me, this barefoot movement is about health. It's about moving. It's about connecting. It's about adventuring. It's about becoming in alignment and congruent with those three things that we're hardwired to be and do.
So this is really important, because here's a philosophy. So if you notice, over the last 40 years, we have become a very consumer-driven economy. It started in 1940, actually, with David Oppenheimer, who took us from a needs-based economy to a desire-based economy. If you watch a video of somebody let's say leaving, going on a vacation in the 1940s or 50s, they have one suitcase. If they're leaving and moving, they have one suitcase. How do we go from one suitcase for my entire life to 3 suitcases overnight? It's because exactly what you said, and we're distraction. But what we found is that's directly attributed to the stress that's in the body. So when we take out the stress from the body, serotonin goes up. So what happens is as stress goes up, serotonin goes down. Serotonin is what makes us feel connected to the world. It helps us understand and explain. The kids, that's why one of the street drugs like ecstasy was so popular, because the kids wanted to feel connected in this world. Now, MDMA now is being used clinically and therapeutically to help people, and that's what it was invented for. When we were kids, I don't know if you remember this, Andrew, but we used to have sassafras soda and sassafras candies. You know what that is? That's natural MDMA. And they actually banned it. It was not allowed to be grown. It was taken out. They used to grow it in Topanga Canyon in California, and a flat out ban of it, because it made us feel connected. And when we're connected, we no longer want to hurt anybody, but we also no longer want to consume. Because consumption is a direct relation to solving an emotional issue, which is a trigger in the body. And that emotional issue comes when we're stressed. When my heels go up like this, it forces my chest out. It tightens this area. So when I breathe, my rib cage can't expand. If you just push down on your rib cage, hold it, and try breathing, and you hold that for 3 minutes, you will start to get anxious. And that's what happens when our heels go up. And this is a sneaky way of getting people to consume. And as our heels go up, they become more dependent, like a crutch, and then more and more. And that's why it keeps going up. We are at the peak of dysfunction. We're telling people that today that 2023 is going to be the largest medical and health crisis in the history of the planet Earth, because we have 40% of the healthcare workers roughly in city, between 30 and 50% in every country that is left. We have people that have been under stress for now into 3 years. We've got all kinds of new inputs to our body, whether you agree with them or not, vaccines, and whether you agree with it or not, there's things like thimerosal and mercury, which is mercury. We've got formaldehyde and stuff like that the body has to process, meaning that we're in stress as a society more than we've ever been. But look at the dysfunction. Look at the social disorders, the gender disorders, and again, I'm not beating up anybody who is dealing with who wants to deal with a gender issue. I'm talking about it's all of a sudden it's being pushed, and it's being pushed because of the stress in the body, the fight to see who's right and who's wrong. And if you hadn't noticed, or if you had noticed, this last month, everybody's been seeking justice. They're pointing the fingers. They're wanting to get back and make sure everything's right. We're at the peak of this right now. It's like a big balloon that's going to explode. I don't want to say that going barefoot is going to change the world, but I'm telling people that actually going barefoot is going to change the world. Because as we start to move correctly again, all movement is life, and the original movement in our body is breath. And when we are moving barefoot, we breathe better, we circulate better, we digest, rest, and process better. And there's so much science to support this even. It's not even a question anymore. So if people are looking now, we have people on this podcast, obviously, are just going to watch this. The majority of markets not in Canada. So we will actually have codes for Vivobarefoot in other countries coming. I think that's going to be next week or so, I would imagine, Andrew, right? Okay, good. So we'll have codes out there. We'll have them listed down here below where you can go get this. What we're asking you to do is we're asking you to give this a shot. Try it. And the reason why I want you to try it is because I know that once you get used to it, like Andrew said, you go a little bit, take a little bit each day, go for a walk, and then just keep increasing that. After you get used to it, you're never going to want to wear shoes again that we call foot coffins. I can't even believe I spend the majority of my life in barefoot and shorts now. That's the way I prefer to be, as little clothes as possible. I mean, if I could wear my underwear around all day, I probably would. and I find this has been the biggest change in my life. So in Canada, where do you guys show up for? First of all, if I'm a chiropractor, I'm a doctor, or a sports medicine doctor, something, will you spend time with me? Will you come and educate me? How do I learn from you?
Absolutely. absolutely. Happy to do that. We're going to be at the physio conference in Kelowna. What month is it? I believe August. So we're going to be all across Canada working with practitioners to help educate and bring them along beside us. We were at the Sports Chiro Clinic, Sports Chiro Convention in Toronto 3 or 4 months ago. We're going to continue to be very active in the community and bring practitioners along beside us and come along beside them in terms of the tools that they're going to have in their toolkit.
So, and Andrew, also too, I want people to know that Andrew, you're going to see a lot more of Andrew. You're going to see a lot more of us working with him, not only because he's a business partner in Canada with us. Andrew is a gentleman who actually, I'll tell you this, all of the other colleagues often go to the bar for a drink, and he's going out to move his body. That's what this is something that you do on a regular basis. Like what does your daily routine look like?
Oh, wow. I don't know if there's a routine. I'm a super active person, so it could be anything. It could be hockey one day, it could be in the gym one day, it could be climbing Sulphur Mountain one day, I'd be going for a walk with my spouse one day. For me, it's all about movement. And so there is no average day. In the summertime, I'm paddleboarding, hiking, playing baseball, the odd time golf. I'm just out. I'm trying to be out and moving and connecting and, as I say, adventuring as best as I can and trying to not live that antithetical life to my hardwiring. And so, avoiding as much distraction, high consumption of media that I would consider to be distracting. I'm trying not to become a hyper consumer of stuff, and I'm trying not to amass power to myself, but more than that, amass connections, people that I can come along beside, that I can walk beside and develop with. So that to me is sort of the essence of my life.
Now you have a kids line of shoes in Canada, and it's not available everywhere else. Can you tell me why that is and how that happened?
Yeah, absolutely. So the kids line, just to sort of maybe correct the little bit of that sentence, is the shoes are available worldwide. The kids' shoes are available worldwide in all of the different markets. But we took a different approach in Canada. Really, again, it's about helping kids. So in most kids, their feet are cartilage until their teenage years, which essentially means that their feet are moldable, that you can change that structure of the foot based upon the footwear they choose. So that would be one thing. The second thing, of course, is there's lots of studies to talk about, kids that are active, that are moving, suffer less from depression and anxiety, the ability to think clearer and to think better. So that would be the second reason. And then the third reason, quite honestly, is an economic reason, is, it's true that shoes are not the least expensive. You can certainly go to Walmart and buy a less expensive shoe. And so I didn't want the price to be a barrier for entry, especially for children. As adults, I think, and I'm not undermining the fact that the shoes are on the higher end of the spectrum, but I know in my life personally, I can make sacrifices maybe in certain areas of my life to be able to afford a shoe that's going to benefit me from a health perspective. Children on the other end, they don't have that luxury. Of course, their parents are the ones that buy the shoes, but we wanted to make the shoes accessible as possible. Whatever your socioeconomic status was, we wanted to try to make the shoes as economically available as possible. And so we created a subscription program. And essentially what it means is that for $29 per month, plus tax, and depending upon the tax and the jurisdiction you're in, that for $29 a month, you can be a part of our subscription program, which entitles you to 4 pairs of shoes per year. So essentially changing the effective cost from $140, $150, $180.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable. I mean, I'm sorry, that is actually cheaper than because kids will be happy with their 4 sets of shoes once a quarter rather than getting ones new all the time. I can guarantee you they'll like them better because they feel good. And they like the pretty shoes and the neat things and the sparks and the lights and all the other kind of things. But at the end of it, kids will gravitate to what feels best. That means that is unbelievable that you do that. That subscription program is going to change the lives of a lot of families. That's only available in Canada, correct?
It's unfortunately only available for Canada, and that's not a statement about the other distributors. It's just, for us, and again, this isn't an us versus them by any stretch of the imagination. They do incredible things and they have different markets. In the UK, I know as an example, they're working with a secondary platform, sort of more of a rental model to provide kids accessibility to shoes. we just wanted to take a really straightforward approach. We're in business to improve people's health, and who better to start with than the children? And so the ability to get these shoes at a significantly discounted price. And if you don't use all four in the year of subscription, you can actually carry 2 over. So again, it's not meant to be punitive. It's not meant to lock you in, and you can cancel anytime. We just ask that you're paid up to the effective price of the shoes that you've received. So it's a really bare bones, simplistic model.
That's awesome, man.
And then the last thing.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, the last thing is that they own the shoes as well. So if the child is in an accelerated growth pattern, they may not wear out the shoes before they size out of the shoes. And so in this program, we call it a subscription program, but you're still the owner of the shoes. So you can then sell them yourself on a secondary market and get another $30 to $60 for those shoes, which again lowers the effective cost to make it available.
And for parents who want to give back into the community, you can donate them.
Yes.
You know, and this is what the Human Garage, this is what we're doing. Like we have countries where supplements, buying a water supplement would be equivalent to spending $750 for, and we're working to get the profit from the United States. Like we're just new, we're starting this now, but so we can actually subsidize other markets, because in the US, $60 is not that big of a deal for a supplement like PowerCurve, but if that was $750 in like South Africa, that's a tough nut to crack. So we're working on programs like that as well. I applaud you for doing that. Actually, we'd like to do some content around there and help mothers understand this, because at $30 a month, basically, they're spending more than that on shoes anyways. I can guarantee you, if you count the number of shoes that mothers and fathers buy for their kids, they're spending more than that anyways. And these shoes, like you said, they're I don't know, it'd be hard to wear them all generally. They're still good even when they're worn. I mean, I wore mine for 6 freaking years.
Yeah, no, surprisingly, Gary, I've seen it happen. My grandsons, I don't know how they do it, but they have managed to destroy a pair of shoes within a year.
If they're destroying Vivobarefoot in a year, regular shoes are gone in 3 months.
Yeah, some of them are. You know, that there's kind of 2 schools of thought, right? Like you get the shoes that, and this isn't, a statement or a judgment, but you can buy the shoes that are indestructible. Like they'll be here in 1,000 years. And I think the thought process for parents is, I'm going to get these shoes that will guarantee to last a year because there's just so many materials in the shoe. Of course, the counter to that is that the foot isn't doing what it's supposed to do because it's wrapped in all of this plastic and rubber so that the shoe and the foot can't move properly. And they'll last a year, they'll last 5 years, they'll last 1,000 years. They'll still be in our landfills in 1,000 years. And so we want the shoe to be minimalist enough that the kids are getting the full movement. For people who are interested in Canada, if you go onto our website, there's a customer service. You can email customer service and they can get you connected into the program, by the way.
Yeah, and okay, we're going to talk more about this. We're going to be creating some content over the next little while because we want people to understand the real benefits of this. We're going to create some kid content there. And I think we would like to partner with you on that subscription program. I think we can do that with a movement process, especially for kids. That's really easy to do. And we can do that with possibly even adding on a supplement. Because as they're growing in aching pains, our PowerCurve 30 actually literally eliminates that. So let's talk about that. That's something that I would like to.
Fantastic.
Andrew, it's been fantastic having you on here. We're going to have this posted. Anybody who wants to find you, tell us where they can find you.
Yeah, we'd love for you to join Vivobarefoot Canada. So if you go to Instagram and it's Vivobarefoot Canada, we'd love for you to subscribe and to follow us on that channel as well. If you type in vivobarefoot.com, it'll automatically geo-route you based on your IP address to the country that you live in. And we'd love to just stay in contact with you. We want to continue to build this community. We want to continue to come along beside people that want to move, that want to connect, that want to adventure in their life. And we think Vivobarefoot is the way to go. So thanks,
actually,
everyone.
Talking about that program, we should have started with the kids program.
Yes, I agree.
So listen, that's actually the coolest thing I've ever heard. And thank you for explaining that. I didn't know it was quite that. Andrew, I'm encouraging everybody because Andrew, you are definitely going to make a difference in this world. I encourage you all to follow Andrew. You're going to see more of him live, certainly in our channel. And also follow Vivobarefoot, and that's VIVO Barefoot, all one word, Canada. And go get yourself a pair of shoes. Guys, this is, I'm telling you that my personal recommendation is Vivo. There's a lot of shoes out there. There's a number of reasons why I choose them. We will get into that as we start to create content. I've used them all out there. This is the best by far and the coolest looking of them all. So if I have good things and they look cool too, then that's a double bonus. So Andrew, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate your time. Looking forward to seeing what comes out of our partnership and relationship.
Fantastic, Gary. Thank you for sharing me with your community.
Take care.